It's Jobeth Bowers, your accident injury attorney, right here in my Elkton office. And for the past 20 years, maybe more, I have worked in this industry. I have handled hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cases that have resolved for the limits of the insurance coverage. And each and every one of those cases had one thing in common. We're going to talk about it today on Monday Morning Lawyer. Good morning, everybody. It's your accident and injury guy, Jobeth Bowers, coming at you on what hopefully is going to be a nice, clearer day. It was super rainy and cloudy when I woke up and came into the office this morning, but it looks like the sun might be trying to peek through there. So hopefully we have a great day today, weather-wise. Want to get into this topic here, talking about the commonalities. One of the things that almost every single one of the cases that I have settled or received a verdict on for the limits of the insurance company policy. But first, I want to talk to and spend a little bit of time on our insurance review contest, which of course is going to tie into today's topic. We are starting that back up. Right here's all the information that you need. Everything is still at marylandinsuranceBook.com. So here's how it works. We did this in April. We had a big drawing and everything like that. All you have to do, super simple, take a picture or download a PDF of your declaration page. This is ones that we have that we just recently did that show some. There's no information on here that will identify who that person is. A lot of times they don't even have your name at the top, the way that these came across. Sometimes they do. They'll list your vehicles. They list the type of coverages that they have. As you can see here, we got the bodily injury, 100-300 underinsured motorist coverage. You can see where it says enhanced, $2,500 in guest PIP. We've talked about this in the past. That guest PIP is a waiver that was sneakily snuck in there on a progressive policy that we see all the time. These are the kind of things that I'm going to point out to you with this free insurance policy review. You're going to get a little report card. Some of the areas are going to be red because you need to pay attention to them. Some of them are going to be yellow because you might want to pay attention to them. Some are going to be green to let you know that this is great coverage. Don't mess with it. You're going to be entered to win, and we're going to do this drawing on Tuesday, September 8th. So we're going to do a Tuesday podcast episode, Labor Day. We're not going to be in the office on Monday. I'm not going to do an episode. We're going to do the drawing on September 8th. So I'm really probably going to keep this thing open unless I decide, hey, we're going to do a second contest, which is really a third contest in September. So the only way that your entries that first week of September and before the drawing don't count is if I'm doing another contest in September, then they'll just count for that one. So do the insurance review. Here's what's going to happen and why it matters. Number one, the drawing is for everybody who submits. And we started this weekend. We already have a handful of submissions in. I've already sent back a number of insurance reviews. In fact, that's what I did for the first 2 or 3 hours this morning here in the office, was putting these together, sending them out. And then, of course, you have the option, you're not required to, but it's absolutely free to book a session where we hop on a virtual call and I run through the policy with you. I answer any questions that you might have. Hey, if this were to happen, what happens with these? And if I were to increase this and get in an accident, what would that mean to me? And I will answer any and all of those questions that you want. Plus, anybody entered for the month of August, no cost to you. I will reemphasize that this is free to you, but everybody who participates, I will give a donation to Voices of Hope. If you don't know who Voices of Hope is, look them up. They are a fantastic organization that's been running 10 or 11 years here in Cecil County, now in Harford County. They are crucial in the recovery community. They have saved and impacted so many lives, helping people actually get clean, out of the throes of addiction, and moving forward and moving on to clean, happy, and productive lives. They have hundreds and hundreds of success stories, which is just the ripple effect that it has to the families that are directly, indirectly, and otherwise affected. We are super excited to support them and everything that they do. So every time that anybody does a submission for me to take a look at their insurance policy, cha-ching, $5 more. So we'll announce what that total is when we do the drawing in September. It's going to be live. We'll bring up the wheel. We'll have all the names on it. Then I'll contact you. And we don't have a specific, as you've noticed, game mentioned. We're just going to look at what's available for the rest of the schedule, and you can pick based on what's there. So obviously, the sooner you get involved in this, if I do a drawing in September and then another one in October, the schedules move forward. So there's going to be less available. So obviously, you'll have the pick of basically the rest of the season following this drawing. And the home opener is on the 20th, which we've already given that away. That was part of the first contest. Those tickets are gone. But pretty much anything beyond that's going to be open and available. So that's good stuff. Again, absolutely free to you. And there is no sales pitch. I'm an attorney who deals with insurance. And we're going to get into that in this topic for today. I just want to spend a little bit extra time on the contest because it's super important, because most people don't know what coverage they have. And that brings us really into what's today's topic. I have been in this profession in one capacity or another. I wasn't even a lawyer when I started 20 years ago, working for an injury law office, learning all of this stuff. And I, at this point, especially because some of that stuff was handled under other firms that I don't have access to those records for, I would be willing to wager that I have helped resolve over 1,000 matters for the limits of the available insurance policy, for all of the money that's available from insurance companies to pay out on this claim, over 1,000 times. Now, that's not an accurate number because I just don't have the records, but it's been hundreds and hundreds of times in the past 12 years that I've been working exclusively here in Cecil County. Tons and tons and tons of these accidents where the limit of the insurance policy, we are able to obtain that. Sometimes we do it very quickly. Sometimes we have to take these things to trial, really every step along the way. Rest assured, here at Bowers Law, we do what it takes to put you in the best position possible. There is one overwhelming commonality between almost every single one of these policy limits cases, and that is the same whether we settle the case and settle it quickly, whether it gets drawn out and we end up getting it settled 10 days before trial, which happens from time to time. Sometimes we actually try these cases and get a verdict, but here is the overwhelming commonality between each and every one of these cases where we resolved them for the limits of the available insurance policy. And to remind you of what that means, when we buy insurance coverage, there's an amount of coverage. And I'll just show this chunk from this deck page. And then look, here's another one that was also progressive, except only 30/60, still has that tricky PIP waiver in there. That is a PIP waiver. If you see that on your policy, fix that. You might have to shop to another company to do so. I would highly recommend using an independent agent because they have access to 20 or 30 or sometimes even more different insurance companies that they can write the lines for. But what's the commonality between all of these cases? And how can there be a commonality when some of the policy limits were the state minimum for Maryland and only $30,000? If that doesn't seem like a lot of money to you, the minimum limit in Delaware, which we're very close to, it's only $25,000. And up in Pennsylvania, it's only $15,000 is the limit for the minimum insurance coverage. Now, of course, and we talk about it all the time, it's in the book, which is, we're in the final stages of editing the book. That should be published probably this month. I'm not 100% sure because it's an editing thing at this point in time, but we're getting very, very close to the launch of that book and at least knowing the date. We should know the date that the book is coming out. Another thing that you're going to get by being involved in the insurance policy review contest, whether you did it back in April, whether you do this one or a future one, is that you're going to get a free copy of that insurance buying book. I know it's not the most exciting thing for you to sit down and read, but it definitely goes deeper and is a real life, real human conversation about your auto insurance policy, why it's so important. And I know this is like the most exciting thing to tune into on a Monday morning at 11 a.m. To listen to me prattle on about. In fact, you're watching this on a replay. You're not even watching it live. And I understand that because everybody's busy and has time. And you're probably seeing this in a clip or who knows what version of this. But the one thing that each and every one of these cases, whether we settle it for 30 or for 50 or 100,000 or 250 or 300,000 or $1 million or any other number, the one thing that each and every one of these cases that we resolved for the absolute limits of the available insurance coverage was that it wasn't enough. Every single one of these cases that we resolved and had to stop at 30 or 50 or 100, 250, even 500,000, those cases were arguably worth more money than what was available in insurance coverage. Which has you ask the question, well, why couldn't you file suit, take it to trial, and get a larger verdict? And the answer to that question is it's absolutely 100% and always an option. But the reality in most of these situations, in being able to collect dime one beyond the limit of the insurance company, because here's what happens. In all reality, we have a case, the insurance company is not willing to resolve it for the policy limits. We file a lawsuit. Well, first and foremost, that's almost $250 in additional charges coming out of your pocket between the filing fees with the court, which is close to $200. Each county is slightly different by a few dollars, so we're going to call it $200. And then you also have to pay a process server to actually serve the lawsuit. So it's usually another $50, give or take. Some of them can be done by certified mail. Regardless, approximately an additional $250 in cost to you, the client. Then we go through the whole trial process. We're doing depositions, spending hundreds of dollars here and there for court reporters and transcripts. All of this adds up to additional expense to you. We move forward, we go to trial. Let's say that the limit of the policy is $100,000 and the verdict that we received is $200,000. The insurance company is going to cut that check. It's a little bit more complicated than the way I'm describing it on here, but effectively, they're cutting that check for what the limit of their policy was. There are some exceptions to this. There are some workarounds to this. It's very complicated and it's very case-by-case specific. So I'm not even going to talk about it here because it is so specific and so case-by-case. But for the most part, they're cutting a check for just the limit of that insurance policy, and that's it, which means all of that extra expense that you incurred, hundreds of dollars filing, hundreds of close to thousands of dollars in depositions. Then you have your experts that you have to pay thousands and thousands of dollars for. When we get them to testify, if they're doing it in live court, we're spending $15,000 to $20,000 for that doctor to show up and talk to a jury. If we are doing it via video deposition, it's $10,000 or more. So this stuff is not cheap. But again, you're taking a doctor, a surgeon in most cases, who is spending time doing surgeries away from that. It's not even just about the money. It's about the time that you're taking and what that time is worth, which is why those costs are so expensive. And then you're stuck. You're still stuck. You've spent all this money. The case is arguably worth more. I mean, we had a case a few years ago where the limit of the insurance policy was $100,000 and our verdict was $600,000 or pretty close to it. That's a big difference. Now, what does all this mean? It means you need to take a look at your auto insurance policy. You need to take a look at the uninsured, underinsured motorist limit coverage. You need to look at that number and you need to think about your life. And you need to say, hey, if I forget medical bills themselves, all right, assume you're going to call my office and you have health insurance and we're going to navigate that and we're going to diminish what you actually pay out as far as your medical bills to the best way possible. And we've talked about it a lot. There's a ton of different ways that we do it. Some of it's using your health insurance and negotiating what they're entitled to be paid back. Some of it's leveraging the PIP properly. Some of it is just negotiating those bills at the end. Any number of things, we're going to do what we can to minimize that cost to you out of pocket. Those bills do still have to be paid, but usually with us, they're negotiable in some way, shape, or form. We're going to minimize that for you. The insurance coverage itself, and say, hey, look at that number. Like I just showed you 2 deck pages, one that was 100,000, one that was only 30,000, and say, if all I could get for a serious accident where, let's say, I wasn't able to work and I wasn't able to contribute to my family for a month, 2 months, if that number on that page is it, because we're going to go into this assuming that the other driver does not have insurance, because that's all you can do is assume that they don't, hope that they do, and hopefully be surprised. Assume that the most money that you're ever going to be able to get out of a serious injury claim is the number written down in the column for you for uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage. And then ask yourself, is that enough? Questions that you should ask yourself, and look at it from a perspective of, hey, I'm taken out of work long enough that it's going to be a problem when it comes to me paying my mortgage, paying my rent, paying the car insurance, health insurance, all the other bills that you have at home, and say, hey, do I own a house? What would it cost to pay this whole thing off? Do I have at least that much coverage when it comes to the uninsured, underinsured motorist? It doesn't mean you're getting all of that, because I will say that while I truly believe that every case that we resolve for the limits of the insurance policy, save a few where we did some really masterful stuff, I'm not saying that every case is worth the limit of the policy. So it doesn't mean, hey, I'm going to go out and get a $500,000 policy, and every time I get in an accident, I'm getting $1 million. No, it doesn't work that way. It's all based on how this impacts your life, how injured you were, and everything like that. But I will say that if you don't have the coverage, or you've got your fingers crossed that the other driver who's a really, really bad driver that caused this accident is going to have really, really great coverage, because those two things seem to make sense together, you only really can count on yourself in this equation. So it's super important. Again, I'm going to bring this up again for the contest, because the easiest way to make sure you're covered is to have me review your insurance policy. You're going to be entered to win the Ravens tickets, which is a great plus. You're going to help raise money for Voices of Hope at no cost to you. So go to MarylandInsuranceBook.com, send me a copy of your policy. I've already had a bunch come in. It's going to be a very, very busy month. I'm excited to do this because it's information that most people don't know, and they're getting it from me for the first time, because most insurance agents don't take the time to explain this stuff. That's on them. And again, I'm not an insurance agent, so there is no sales pitch, just information. Here, you take this to your agent and fix what you can afford to fix. Fix what makes sense for you to fix. But keep that question in mind. What is it worth if I get taken out for a couple of months? Don't even think about the medical bills. What is my life worth for the course of a year? Can I pay off my house? Whatever the question is, that's the question you got to look for when you look at your uninsured and underinsured motorist number. Is it enough if you were going to get taken out? We could talk about that in the free evaluation when we do take the look at your insurance policy. So that's all the time I have for this week. If you have topics that you want discussed on the podcast, and we've had a few, and we have a few guests coming in from different areas of law, send me an email, info@bowerslawmd.com, with any questions that you have. If it's not related to what I do, as you know, I'll bring in an expert. We'll have a conversation about whatever that area of law is. Also, did you miss something? I do a lot of stuff where I reference, hey, we've talked about this in the past, because I've been doing this podcast for a number of years now. You can go to bowerslawmd.com. Up in the upper right-hand corner, click where it says podcast. You will see all of the back episodes of the podcast. They're also on the YouTube channel, but it's easily categorized right here on the website. Go there. You can find all of this information. Some of them are linked to each other because the topics cross over with each other. But take a look, or have me take a look at that insurance policy. Do it ASAP. Do it this month while we're having the contest. That way you can at least give some money back without it costing you anything to the local nonprofit, and change some people's lives. and really change yours, because if you get in an accident, it's too late to fix your insurance. So I went over, this is much longer than I normally do on one of these podcasts, but super important topic. Reach out. I'm here to help. I'm here to review your policy, obviously help you out and handle your accident. If you need one, we can navigate through those injuries. It's what we do. BowersLawMD.com or 885-6200. That's how you reach us. Be well, be safe out there. We'll see